She thought walking away from him was the hardest thing she'd ever do, until she walked into a bar owned by a man whose secrets were far more dangerous than any she'd left behind. The apartment had never felt like home, but as Iris folded the last of Derek's shirts into cardboard boxes, she realized it had never been hers at all. 3 years of tiptoeing around his moods, his rules, his version of reality, and here she was, alone on a Tuesday afternoon, finally packing away the evidence of her own erasure. Her hands trembled as she worked. Muscle memory from countless fights kept her glancing at the door, even though she knew he was at work, even though she'd planned this for weeks, waiting for the day he'd be gone long enough, even though she'd finally found the strength to stop saying tomorrow. The sun cut through the blinds in sharp lines across the scratched hardwood. Dust motes danced in the silence. She'd forgotten what silence felt like without. The weight of his impending return pressing against it. Her phone buzzed. Derek's name lit up the screen. "Where are you? You didn't answer this morning." Her stomach clenched. She silenced it, then turned the phone face down on the counter with more force than necessary. The sound echoed in the empty space. "Not anymore," she whispered to no one. "Not anymore." Across the city, in an office that smelled of leather and expensive scotch, Dante Caruso watched 6 security monitors with the focus of a man who'd learned early that survival meant seeing everything. The bar below Obscura was preparing for evening service. His bar, his territory, his rules. Shipments Klein, his second-in-command Vincent, reported from the doorway. Customs didn't even blink. Dante didn't turn from the screens. They wouldn't. We paid them not to. Vincent stepped inside, closing the door with the soft click of someone who understood discretion. "You seen the applications for the bartender position. Got a few decent options." "Handle it." "Boss, you usually." "I said handle it." Dante's voice was quiet, but Vincent had worked for him long enough to know that quiet was more dangerous than shouting. The door closed again. Dante was alone with the blue glow of surveillance footage and the weight of an empire built on loyalty, blood, and the kind of trust that most people couldn't comprehend. His world was one of absolutes. You were in or you were out. You were useful or you were gone. There was no middle ground, no gray area, no space for weakness. He'd learned that at 15, watching his sister's bruises multiply while her husband's promises stayed empty. He'd learned it again at 17, when she died, and no one with a badge cared enough to investigate. Some lessons you learned once, others you carried forever. His phone rang, a blocked number that he recognized immediately. He answered without preamble. "It's done," the voice said. "The councilman won't be a problem anymore." "Good," Dante ended the call. Another problem solved. Another day in a life where problems only had one kind of solution. He looked back at the monitors, watching his people move through their routines with practiced efficiency. Obscura wasn't just a bar. It was a fortress, a front, and a promise. Everyone who worked for him understood the code: loyalty above all, silence always, and protection for those who belonged. The door opened again. Vincent's voice held a note of uncertainty. "Boss, there's someone here for the interview. I told her we weren't seeing anyone without an appointment, but she says she'll wait. She's been sitting in the lobby for 2 hours." Dante finally turned, one eyebrow raised. 2 hours. "Won't leave, I don't know, something about her." For the first time that day, Dante felt a flicker of curiosity. Send her up. Iris's legs had gone numb 20 minutes ago, but she stayed in the lobby chair, gripping her worn resume like it was a life raft. She couldn't go back to Derek's apartment. She couldn't go back to her mother's disappointed sighs. She couldn't go back to anything that resembled before. Which meant she had to go forward, even if forward was a bar she'd found on Craigslist, in a neighborhood her ex had always called dangerous, for a job she was overqualified for and desperately needed. The lobby was nicer than she'd expected, all dark wood and subtle lighting, the kind of place that whispered money without shouting it. A few men in expensive suits had walked through, each one glancing at her with expressions ranging from curiosity to dismissal. None of them smiled. "He'll see you now." The man who tried to turn her away earlier stood in front of her. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of face that had seen things he'd never talk about. His tone made it clear that "he'll see you" wasn't an invitation, it was a judgment. Iris stood too. Quickly, her knee protesting, she followed him to an elevator, then down a hallway that seemed to exist in permanent twilight. The door at the end opened into an office that felt more like a sanctuary. And behind the desk sat a man who looked like he'd been carved from marble and taught to breathe. Dark hair swept back from a face that was all sharp angles and controlled power. Eyes so dark they might as well have been black, watching her with the kind of attention that made her want to both run and stand straighter. A suit that probably cost more than 3 months of her old rent. "Sit," he said, not unkind, but not warm either. Iris sat, her resume crinkled in her grip. "You've been waiting 2 hours." His voice was smooth, almost hypnotic. "Why?" "I need this job." The words came out steadier than she felt. "There are other jobs, other bars. Not ones that are hiring immediately." She forced herself to meet his eyes. "I have bartending experience. 5 years. I can start today." Something shifted in his expression, so subtle she almost missed it. "What's your name?" "Iris Chen." "Iris," he said it like he was testing the weight of it. "Why do you need a job today?" Her phone buzzed in her purse. Derek again. She flinched before she could stop herself, and she saw the exact moment Dante noticed. "I left someone," she said quietly, "today, and I can't go back." The silence stretched between them like a living thing. Dante leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled, studying her with an intensity that should have felt invasive but somehow didn't. "You're overqualified," he finally said. "Management experience, bartending certifications, cocktail competition medals." He'd clearly looked at her resume while she waited. "This is a step down." "I don't care about steps. I care about starting over." Another beat of silence. "Then anyone bothers you while you work here, you tell me first. Understood?" Iris blinked, confused by the specificity. "Life's okay." "Not okay, understood." There was something in his voice, a promise or a warning or both. She nodded. "You start tomorrow, evening shift. Vincent will handle your paperwork." He turned back to his computer, dismissing her. She stood, legs still unsteady, and made it to the door before his voice stopped her. "Iris." She turned. "Welcome to Obscura." The way he said it, like it meant something more than just a bar name, like it was both a welcome and a warning, made something in her chest tighten. She'd walked away from one dangerous situation today. She had no idea she'd just walked straight into another. But as she rode the elevator down, her phone still buzzing with Derek's increasingly angry texts, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. The hope, even if she didn't yet understand the cost. The next evening, Iris arrived 30 minutes early wearing black jeans and a simple white blouse. the unofficial uniform of service industry veterans everywhere. Her heart hammered as she pushed through Obscura's heavy front doors, but she kept her chin up, her shoulders back. Fake it till you make it. She'd been faking confidence for 3 years with Derek. Surely she could manage it for one shift. Vincent was waiting at the bar, arms crossed, expression unreadable. You actually showed. Why wouldn't I? He shrugged. Most people who meet the boss don't come back. Before Iris could unpack that statement, another voice cut in, feminine, warm, and carrying a thick Brooklyn accent. Vinny, stop scaring the new girl. I'm Maya. A woman in her mid-30s with box braids piled high and a smile that could melt steel extended her hand. I run the floor. You're on bar with me tonight. It's Tuesday, so it'll be steady but not slammed. Good day to learn the ropes. Iris shook her hand, grateful for the warmth. Thank you, I really appreciate. Save the gratitude, you'll earn your place or you won't. But Maya's eyes were kind. Come on, let me show you the setup. The bar itself was beautiful, all dark mahogany and brass fixtures, backlit bottles creating an amber glow, top shelf everything. The kind of place where a cocktail cost $30 and no one blinked. High-end clientele, Maya explained, moving through the space with practiced efficiency. Businessmen, politicians, the occasional celebrity. We get regulars who have been coming for 20 years. Dante's very particular about the atmosphere. Does he come down often? Iris asked, trying to sound casual. Maya's smile turned knowing, more than he used to, especially lately. She paused, measuring her words. Look, I'm going to give you the talk everyone gets. This bar, it's not like other places. The people who come here, the conversations you'll overhear, you don't repeat them. Not to friends, not to family, not to a therapist. What happens at Obscura stays at Obscura. Understood. There it was again, that word, understood. Understood, Iris. Echoed. Good girl, Maya squeezed her shoulder. Now let's see what you can do with a Sazerac. The shift blurred by in a rhythm Iris had almost forgotten, the muscle memory of shaking cocktails, the ballet of movement behind a busy bar, the satisfaction of watching a perfect drink come together. She'd missed this, the control of it, the artistry. By 10 p.m., the bar was full but not chaotic. Jazz played low under the hum of conversation. Men in expensive suits occupied the corner booths, leaning close over whiskey and words Iris couldn't hear. She was wiping down the bar top when she felt it, that electric awareness of being watched. Dante stood at the far end of the bar, half in shadow, observing, not just her but everything, the way a king might survey his kingdom. Their eyes met. He moved toward her with a fluid grace that seemed almost dangerous, sliding onto a bar stool like he owned it, which, of course, he did. How's your first night? He asked. Good, busy. Maya's a great teacher. She's worked here 12 years, knows this place better than I do. He paused. Whiskey, neat, whatever's most expensive. Iris allowed herself a small smile, testing me. Observing. She poured him a Pappy Van Winkle 23, liquid gold at roughly $300 a glass, and set it in front of him with a cocktail napkin. Observing what? Whether you belonged in that lobby yesterday or behind this bar today. Land. He took a sip, never breaking eye contact. You move like someone who's done this 1,000 times, but you keep looking at the door. Her hands stilled on the rag she'd been using. I don't. You do, every 15 minutes, like you're expecting someone. Her phone, tucked in her back pocket, buzzed. Derek. Again, 17 missed calls today. 12 texts that progressed from pleading to angry to threatening. She must have tensed because Dante's expression shifted, something cold sliding behind his eyes. Although, person you left, he said quietly, he's not letting you go. It wasn't a question. Iris swallowed hard. It's nothing I can't handle. That's not what I asked. I don't need, she stopped herself, recognizing the defensive edge in her voice. Derek had always accused her of being defensive, of overreacting, of making problems out of nothing. She'd trained herself to be smaller, quieter, less. But Dante wasn't Derek. I don't need anyone to fight my battles, she said more calmly. I left, that's enough. Is it? He leaned forward slightly. Because from where I'm sitting, you're still carrying him around, in your pocket, in the way you flinch when the door opens, in every glance toward the exit. Heat rushed to her face, part embarrassment, part anger. You don't know me. No, he agreed, but I know fear, and I know the difference between someone who's afraid of the world and someone who's afraid of one specific person in it. Her phone buzzed again. Dante's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Show me. What? Show me what he's saying. That's private. Iris, her name in his voice, was a command wrapped in something that almost sounded like concern. Show me. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the way he looked at her, not with pity, but with a kind of recognition that made her feel seen for the first time in years. Maybe it was just the desperate need to prove to someone, anyone, that she wasn't crazy. She pulled out her phone and handed it over. Dante scrolled through Derek's messages, his expression going from neutral to carved from stone. You can't just leave. We need to talk. Stop being childish. I forgive you. You took my favorite jacket. Bring it back or I'm calling the police. You're nothing without me. You know that, right? I'm coming to get you. You can't hide. Answer me, you ungrateful bitch. The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. Then Dante set the phone down with careful precision, the kind of control that suggested barely contained fury. His name. It doesn't matter. His name. Something in his tone made her answer. Derek Morrison. Dante pulled out his own phone, typed something, then slid it back into his pocket. When he looked at her again, his expression had smoothed into something calmer, but no less intense. You won't hear from him again. You can't promise that. Yes, Dante said simply, I can. Before Iris could respond, the front door opened. A group of men entered, expensive suits, loud voices, the kind of swagger that came from too much money and too little supervision. One of them spotted Iris and smiled in a way that made her skin crawl. Well, fresh blood. Maya appeared beside Iris like a guardian angel. Gentlemen, your usual table. But the man was already approaching the bar, ignoring Maya entirely. He leaned against the polished wood, invading Iris's space with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. You're new, what's your name, sweetheart? Iris opened her mouth, but Dante's voice cut through the air like a blade. Well, she's not interested. The man turned, his smile faltering when he saw who'd spoken. Dante, didn't see you there. I was just being friendly. Be friendly somewhere else. She works for me. That means she's off limits. The air in the bar changed. Conversations died. Even the jazz seemed to lower in volume. The man raised his hands in mock surrender, but his eyes held anger. No disrespect intended. Then none taken. Maya, get them situated. The group moved toward their table, but the damage was done. Every person in that bar now knew something. Iris Chen was under Dante Caruso's protection. And in a world like this, that meant everything. Iris stared at him, her heart racing for entirely new reasons. You didn't have to do that. Yes, Dante said, finishing his whiskey in one smooth motion. I did. He stood, leaving $100 bill on the bar for a $30 drink, and walked back toward his office without another word. Maya appeared at Iris's elbow, her expression a mix of concern and something else, respect, maybe, or warning. Girl, she said softly, I don't know what your story is, but you just became a very interesting person in a very dangerous world. Iris watched Dante disappear up the stairs, her pulse still thundering. She'd thought leaving Derek would be the end of something. She hadn't realized it might be the beginning of everything else. Her phone buzzed one final time. She looked down, expecting another message from Derek. Instead, it was from an unknown number. You're safe now, D. And somehow, impossibly, she believed him. The first week at Obscura passed in a strange blur of hyper-awareness and unexpected peace. Derek's messages stopped completely after that first night, radio silence that should have relieved Iris, but instead left her waiting for the other shoe to drop. He never gave up this easily. Never. She told herself not to think about it, not to wonder what Dante had done, or how, or why. But late at night, alone in the efficiency apartment she'd rented with her first paycheck, she couldn't stop wondering. You're doing it again, Maya said on Friday night, snapping her fingers in front of Iris's face. Spiraling, I can see it from here. Iris blinked, refocusing on the lime she'd been cutting. Sorry, just tired. Maya didn't sound convinced. You've been jumping at shadows all week. He really did a number on you, didn't he? I don't want to talk about it. Good, because I don't want to hear about it. Maya's tone was matter-of-fact, but not unkind. What I do want is for you to stop apologizing every 5 seconds. You've said sorry 47 times tonight, and exactly 0 of them were for actual mistakes. Had she, Iris mentally rewound the evening, apologizing when someone bumped into her, apologizing for asking where the vermouth was kept, apologizing for taking up space behind the bar. It's a habit, she said quietly. It's a survival mechanism, and you don't need it here. Maya squeezed her arm. Nobody's gonna bite your head off for existing, okay? Well, Vincent might, but he's like that with everyone. As if summoned, Vincent appeared at the end of the bar, his usual scowl firmly in place. Boss wants to see you. Iris's stomach dropped. Me, why? Do I look like his secretary, upstairs, now? Maya shot her an encouraging look as Iris untied her apron with trembling fingers. She'd been avoiding Dante all week, or rather, he'd been avoiding her. After that first night, he'd barely shown his face on the floor, and when he did, his attention was everywhere except on her. She told herself it was relief she felt. She was lying. The door to his office was open. Dante sat behind his desk, reading something on his computer with the intense focus of a man who dealt in information as currency. He didn't look up when she knocked. You wanted to see me. Close the door. She obeyed, her pulse quickening. The office felt smaller with just the two of them in it, the air thick with unspoken things. Zed, I'd rather stand. Finally, he looked at her, really looked at her, with those dark eyes that seemed to see through every defense she'd ever built. Why? Because every time someone tells me to sit, it's usually followed by telling me everything I did wrong. Something flickered across his face, understanding, maybe, or anger on her behalf. I'm not him. I know that. Do you? He stood, moving around the desk with that predatory grace that should have frightened her but somehow didn't. Because you've been treating me like I might explode for 7 days straight. I can't tell if you're afraid of me or afraid I'll disappear. The accuracy of that statement stole her breath, both maybe. Dante stopped a few feet away, hands in his pockets, studying her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. Your ex, Derek Morrison, he won't be contacting you anymore. How can you be sure? Because I made sure. What does that mean? Her voice came out sharper than intended. What did you do? Nothing permanent, just persuasive. He tilted his head. Does it matter? Yes, I don't want, she stopped, forcing herself to breathe. I don't want to owe anyone anything. I don't want to be someone's project or charity case. I just want to work and be left alone. And yet you're in my office at 10:30 on a Friday night, arguing with me instead of running for the exit. He had a point. Why did you call me up here? She asked. Dante returned to his desk, pulling out an envelope. Your first week's pay, plus a bonus. Iris took it, frowning. A bonus for what? For showing up, for not running, for handling Garrett and his friends with more grace than they deserved. He paused, for being good at this. She opened the envelope. The amount made her throat tight. It was more than she'd made in a month at her last job. This is too much. It's what you're worth. You don't even know Mace. I know enough. He leaned back in his chair, and for just a moment he looked tired. Human, I know you're running from something that scared you enough to take a job at a bar you suspected was more than it seemed. I know you're smarter than you pretend to be, and tougher than you think you are. And I know that everyone who works for me deserves to be paid fairly. Iris clutched the envelope, emotions warring in her chest. Gratitude, suspicion, something else she didn't want to name. What is this place really? She asked quietly. The bars. Don't insult my intelligence. Dante's lips curved into something that might have been a smile if it reached his eyes. It's a bar. That's all you need to know. And if I want to know more, then you're asking questions that have consequences. His expression grew serious. I protect the people who work for me, Iris, but protection requires trust, and trust requires not knowing things that could put you in danger. I'm already in danger just by being here, aren't I? He didn't answer, which was answer enough. Iris moved toward the door, then stopped with her hand on the knob. Why did you hire me, really? The silence stretched long enough that she thought he wouldn't respond. Then, because I saw something in you that reminded me of someone I couldn't save. Her hand tightened on the doorknob. And you think you can save me? No, his voice was rough, honest, but I can make sure you're safe enough to save yourself. Downstairs, the bar had gotten busier. Maya raised an eyebrow when Iris returned, but didn't ask questions. Another thing Iris appreciated about this place. People minded their business. She was mixing an old-fashioned when she felt it again. That prickle of awareness that came from being watched. But this time it wasn't Dante. A man sat at the far end of the bar, mid-30s, forgettable features, nursing a beer he hadn't actually drunk from. He'd been there for an hour, Iris realized, ordering the cheapest thing on the menu and making it last. And he kept looking at her. Not like the other patrons, not with appreciation or interest or even the casual objectification she'd learned to ignore. This was different, calculating, familiar. Her blood ran cold. She knew that look. She'd seen it on Derek's face 100 times when he was gathering ammunition for an argument, cataloging her mistakes, building his case. "Maya," she said quietly, "the guy in the gray jacket. Do you know him?" Maya glanced over, frowned. Never seen him before. Why? Just a feeling. But Maya had been doing this long enough to trust feelings. She caught Vincent's eye across the room and made a subtle gesture. Within seconds, Vincent was at the man's side. "Can I help you with something?" "Just enjoying my beer." The man's smile was too wide, too friendly. "Great, enjoy it somewhere else." "I haven't finished." "Yeah, you have." It wasn't a suggestion. The man stood, tossed a 10 on the bar, and left without argument. But as he passed Iris, he leaned in just close enough to whisper, "He's going to find out what you did, and when he does, you'll wish you'd never left." Then he was gone, disappearing into the night like smoke. Iris's hands shook so badly, she had to set down the glass she was holding. Derek had sent someone, of course he had. That was his style. Indirect, manipulative, always maintaining plausible deniability. "You okay?" Maya's voice seemed far away. "I need a minute." She didn't wait for permission, just pushed through the back door into the alley where they took deliveries. The cool November air hit her like a slap, and she bent over, hands on her knees, trying to remember how to breathe. "You can't run forever. He'll find you. He'll make you pay." Derek's words from 100 different fights echoed in her skull. The door opened behind her. She expected Maya. "It was Dante. Tell me what happened." "Nothing, I just needed air." Iris, her name was a command. "Tell me." And somehow, the combination of his presence and her fear and the weight of the week broke something open inside her. "He sent someone, a man in the bar. He said Derek was going to find out what I did, that I'd wish I never left." The words tumbled out in a rush. "I thought it was over, I thought." "It is over," Dante said, his voice deadly calm. "Give me a description." She did. Height, build, the gray jacket, the way he held his beer. Dante pulled out his phone, made a call. Gray jacket, mid-30s, brown hair, left 3 minutes ago heading east. A pause. "I want to know who he is and who sent him, tonight." He ended the call and turned his full attention back to her. "He won't touch you. You can't know that." "Yes, I can, because this is my territory, my bar, my rules." He stepped closer, and she could see the fury barely contained behind his controlled expression. "And you're under my protection, which means anyone who comes after you comes through me first." "Why?" The word broke on a sob she couldn't contain. "Why do you even care?" For a long moment, he just looked at her. Then, so quietly she almost didn't hear it, "Because someone should have cared about my sister, and no one did." The vulnerability in that statement, raw and honest and painful, cut through her panic. Before she could think better of it, before fear or common sense could stop her, Iris closed the distance between them and did something she hadn't done in years. She let herself be held. Dante's arms came around her carefully, like he wasn't sure she wouldn't bolt. But when she didn't, when she just stood there and finally let herself break, his embrace tightened. "I've got you," he murmured against her hair. "You're safe, I promise." And in that moment, in the alley behind a bar that was definitely more than it seemed, held by a man who was certainly dangerous, Iris felt safer than she had in 3 years, which terrified her almost as much as Derek ever had. Because she was starting to trust this. Trust him. And trust, she'd learned, was the most dangerous thing of all. Dante insisted on driving her home that night, not suggested, insisted, and when Vincent offered instead, Dante shut him down with a look that could freeze hell. "I don't need a babysitter," Iris protested weakly as he guided her toward a black Mercedes that probably cost more than her college education. "No, you need a ride." He opened the passenger door. "Get in." She should have argued more, should have insisted on independence, on handling her own problems, on not becoming someone who needed rescuing. But exhaustion and fear had worn her defenses down to nothing, so she got in. The car smelled like leather and expensive cologne. Dante drove with the same controlled precision he brought to everything else, confident but not reckless, aware of every vehicle around them. "Where am I going?" he asked. She gave him the address of her efficiency apartment in a neighborhood that definitely wasn't as nice as his car. He didn't comment, just programmed it into the GPS and pulled into traffic. The silence should have been awkward. Instead, it felt almost comfortable, the kind of quiet that didn't demand filling. "You didn't have to do this," Iris said finally. "We've established I do a lot of things I don't have to do." "Why? Why what?" "Why me? You said it yourself. You saw something that reminded you of your sister, but I'm not her. I'm not your responsibility." Dante's jaw tightened, his eyes never leaving the road. "My sister's name was Lucia. She was 23 when she died. Her husband," he stopped, the word clearly leaving a bitter taste. "He was controlling, jealous. Everyone saw the signs, including me, but she loved him or thought she did, and she kept saying she could fix him, that he'd change." Iris's throat constricted. She knew that story. She'd lived that story. "The night she died, she called me," Dante continued, his voice flat in the way that suggested violent emotion held carefully in check. "Said she was finally leaving. Asked if she could stay with me. I told her yes, told her I was coming to get her." His knuckles went white on the steering wheel. "By the time I got there, he'd already." "He didn't finish. He didn't have to." "I'm sorry," Iris whispered. "Don't be sorry, be smart, be careful, be willing to accept help when someone offers it." He glanced at her briefly. "Be different than she was." "I'm trying. I know." They drove in silence for another few blocks before Dante spoke again. "The man in the bar. We'll find out who he is." "And then what?" "And then I'll make sure he understands that delivering messages for abusive exes in my establishment isn't good for his health." There was something almost comforting about the casual menace in his tone. Like violence, when directed at the right targets, could be a form of protection. "You scare me a little," Iris admitted. "Good, I scare a lot of people, but I shouldn't scare you." He pulled up in front of her building, a converted warehouse with industrial windows and the kind of security that was more aesthetic than functional. "This is where you live." "It's what I could afford on short notice." Dante stared at the building with obvious disapproval. "The locks on that front door are decorative. Anyone with basic knowledge could get through them in 30 seconds. "Are you speaking from experience?" "Oh, yes." Of course he was. Iris reached for the door handle, but Dante's hand on her arm stopped her. "Wait." He got out, came around to her side, and opened the door like she was something precious. Then he walked her to the building entrance, his eyes cataloging every shadow, every potential threat. Which apartment? Third floor, 3C. Show me. Dante, you don't need to. Show me. She led him upstairs that creaked ominously, past doors with peeling paint and the distant sound of a couple arguing in Spanish. Her apartment was at the end of the hall, small, sparse, but clean. She'd only been here a week, so it still had that empty, temporary feeling. Dante stepped inside, and the space immediately felt smaller. He checked the windows, tested the locks, examined the fire escape with the focus of someone conducting a security assessment. "This won't work," he said finally. "Excuse me." "These locks are garbage. The fire escape is easily accessible from the alley, and your neighbors," he gestured vaguely toward the sounds of the argument that had escalated to shouting. "They're not going to notice if someone breaks in." "Well, it's what I've got." "No," Dante pulled out his phone. "Vincent, I need you to do something." "Dante, stop." He held up a finger, silencing her. "Apartment 3C, 447 Market Street. I want new locks on the door and windows, industrial grade, and a security system, cameras, motion sensors, the works." A pause. "Tonight, I don't care if you have to wake someone up." As he ended the call, Iris stared at him, emotions churning between gratitude and fury. "You can't just." "I can, and I did. I didn't ask for this." "No, but you need it." He turned to face her fully. "Derek Morrison knows where you work, which means he might know where you live. And until I'm certain he's not a threat, you're not staying in an apartment that a child could break into." "So what? You're just going to install a fortress worth of security in my rental?" "Oh, yes. And I'm supposed to just accept it." "Oh, yes." The simple audacity of it shocked a laugh out of her, slightly hysterical but genuine. "You're insane." "I'm thorough," something softened in his expression. "Look, I know this feels like too much. Like I'm overstepping, but I'd rather overstep than have Vincent call me at 3 a.m. because something happened to you that I could have prevented." The vulnerability in that statement disarmed her. This wasn't about control. It was about a promise made to a dead sister that he couldn't keep, redirected onto a woman he barely knew. "Okay," she said quietly. "Okay." "Okay, install your cameras and your fancy locks, but I'm paying you back." "No, you're not." "Dante." "Iris," he stepped closer, and the air between them felt charged with something that had nothing to do with fear. "Let me do this, please." She'd never heard him say please before, didn't think he was the kind of man who asked for things instead of taking them. "Fine," she relented, "but I'm making you coffee while we wait for Vincent." "I don't drink coffee after 6 p.m. "Then you can watch me drink coffee and contemplate your life choices." The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile. "A deal." Vincent arrived 45 minutes later with 2 other men and enough equipment to secure a bank vault. Dante supervised with the intensity of a general directing troops, pointing out angles and vulnerabilities that Iris would never have noticed. She sat on her second-hand couch, drinking instant coffee and watching a Mafia boss transform her mediocre apartment into a fortress. It was possibly the strangest night of her life. "Boss, we got an ID on the guy from the bar," Vincent said quietly, though not quietly enough that Iris couldn't hear. "Name's Paul Henderson. He's a pie, been on Morrison's payroll for 2 weeks. Dante's expression went glacial. "Where is he now?" "We're tracking him. Want me to bring him in?" "No, I'll handle it personally." He glanced at Iris, who pretended very hard to be fascinated by her coffee. Tomorrow, after the bar closes. Vincent nodded and went back to installing a camera above her door. Dante sat down beside her on the couch, close enough that she could feel the heat of him, far enough that it didn't feel presumptuous. "You heard that," he said. It wasn't a question. "I have ears. Are you going to ask what 'handle it personally' means?" "Do I want to know?" "Probably not." She should have been horrified, should have demanded he do nothing, that she'd handle Derek through legal channels. That violence wasn't the answer. Instead, she just felt tired and safe and grateful that someone finally believed her fear was justified. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For not making me explain why I'm scared, for not telling me I'm overreacting, for not," her voice cracked, "for not making me prove he's dangerous before you believe me." Dante's hand found hers on the couch cushion between them. His palm was warm, calloused, strong. "I believe you," he said simply. "I've always believed you." They sat like that, hands linked, while Vincent and his crew turned her apartment into a place Derek would never be able to touch her, and for the first time since she'd left, Iris thought maybe, just maybe, she might actually be free. Even if freedom came with a price she didn't fully understand yet. Even if the man offering protection was more dangerous than the one she'd escaped. Even if she was starting to feel things for Dante Caruso that had nothing to do with gratitude and everything to do with the way her heart raced when he looked at her like she mattered. "You should get some rest," Dante said eventually, though he didn't move to leave. "You should stop ordering me around. I'll stop when you start taking better care of yourself." "Bossy. Concerned." She turned to look at him, really look at him, and found his dark eyes already on her, studying her face like he was memorizing it. "Dante. Yes. Stay until they're done. I don't want to be alone right now." Something shifted in his expression, surprise maybe, or something deeper. "Okay," he said. Softly, "I'll stay." And he did. 3 weeks passed in a strange new rhythm. Iris worked her shifts, learned the unspoken rules of Obscura, and slowly began to understand the ecosystem she'd stumbled into. The bar wasn't just a front, it was a neutral ground, a place where deals were made, alliances were forged, and conflicts were negotiated over $30 cocktails instead of bullets. Dante presided over it all with the authority of someone who'd earned respect through a combination of fear and fairness. And somehow, impossibly, Iris had become part of that world. Derek's private investigator had disappeared, not literally, Maya assured her when Iris asked, just encouraged to find employment elsewhere. The messages stopped, the calls stopped, even the feeling of being watched finally faded. But Iris couldn't shake the awareness of Dante, the way he'd appear at the bar during her shifts, always finding a reason to check on things, the way his eyes followed her movement. Through the room, the way he'd started staying later, nursing a single drink and watching her work like she was something worth studying. "You know he's never done this before, right?" Maya said one night during a quiet moment. "Done what?" "Dante, he doesn't hover, he manages from a distance. But with you," Maya shook her head. "Girl, that man hasn't taken his eyes off you for 3 weeks straight. He's just being protective because of his sister." "Mum, keep telling yourself that." Iris was saved from responding by the arrival of the evening crowd. Friday nights were always busy, regulars mixing with newcomers, the energy higher, the tips better. She fell into the rhythm of it, the familiar dance of pouring and shaking and serving. She was reaching for a bottle of top-shelf gin when she noticed it, a bracelet, thin and silver, tucked behind the bottles in a spot that suggested it had been there for years. Curious, she pulled it out. It was delicate, clearly expensive, with a small charm dangling from it, a tiny engraved butterfly. Where did you find that? Iris turned to find Dante standing at the end of the bar, his face pale, his expression shattered in a way she'd never seen before. It was just here, behind the bottles. She held it out. Is it yours? He took it with trembling fingers, the first time she'd ever seen him anything other than perfectly controlled. It was my sister's, Lucia. She worked here before she died. I thought I'd lost it after. He didn't finish, but Iris understood. After she'd died, after he'd cleaned out her things, after the funeral and the grief and the rage that must have consumed him. I didn't know she worked here, Iris said softly. For 2 years, she was good at it, great with people, always knew the right thing to say. His thumb traced the butterfly charm. I gave her this bracelet for her 21st birthday. She wore it every day. She must have loved it. She loved the idea of it, freedom. Transformation, he laughed bitterly. I told her butterflies were fragile. She said they were stronger than they looked, that they survived their whole metamorphosis just to fly. The weight of that metaphor hung heavy between them. Come upstairs, Dante said abruptly. Please, I want to show you something. Iris glanced at Maya, who waved her away. Go, I've got this. Dante's office felt different at night, shadows deeper, the city lights beyond the windows creating a kind of urban constellation. He moved to a cabinet in the corner, unlocked it, and pulled out a leather-bound photo album. I don't show this to people, he said, sitting on the couch and gesturing for her to join him, but I think you should see it. Iris sat beside him, close enough to see the pages as he opened them. Lucia Caruso smiled out from the photographs, dark hair, bright eyes, her brother's sharp features softened into something warmer, pictures of birthdays, graduations, family dinners, a life captured in moments that looked happy from the outside. She was beautiful, Iris said. She was stubborn, brilliant, believed she could fix anything, including people who didn't want to be fixed. He turned a page. This was her at 22, 6 months before she met Marco. The next photos showed a change. Lucia's smile grew tighter. She wore more makeup, probably covering bruises. Her clothes got more conservative. In one picture, Marco stood beside her, his hand on her shoulder in a grip that looked more possessive than loving. I hated him from the moment I met him, Dante said quietly. The way he looked at her, like she was property, like she existed for his convenience. He closed the album. I tried to warn her, begged her to leave, offered her money, protection, anything she needed. She kept saying it wasn't that bad, that she could handle it, that love meant working through hard times. It's not easy to leave, Iris whispered. Everyone thinks it should be. Just walk away, right? But they don't understand the way it gets inside your head, the way you start believing you deserve it, that you're the problem. Dante turned to look at her, really look at her. Is that what he did to you, made you believe you were the problem? Every single day, the words came easier now, here in the semi-darkness with someone who understood. At first it was small things. I was too sensitive, too emotional. I overreacted to jokes. Then it was bigger things. I dressed wrong. I talked to people wrong. I breathed wrong. She laughed without humor. By the end, I apologized for existing. I made myself smaller and quieter and less, thinking if I could just figure out the right way to be, he'd stop being angry. But he never stopped. No, because it was never about me. It was about control. She met Dante's eyes. I know what you saw in me that first day. The the same thing you saw in Lucia, someone running from a prison she'd built around herself, brick by brick, apology by apology. And you broke out. Barely. I'm still waiting for the walls to close back in. Dante set the album aside and turned to face her fully. They won't, not while I'm here. You can't promise that. Watch me. He reached up, his hand hovering near her face before making contact, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his palm cupped her cheek with devastating gentleness. You're not her, Iris. You're not Lucia. You're stronger than you think, braver than you know, and you're going to be fine. How can you be so sure? Because you're already fighting. You left. You started over. You're building a new life. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. And you let me install security cameras in your apartment without punching me, which shows remarkable restraint. She laughed, a real laugh that surprised them both. The night's still young. There she is. His smile was soft, genuine. The woman who makes sarcastic comments. And doesn't apologize for taking up space. I like her. The air between them shifted, charged with something that had been building for weeks. Iris could feel her pulse in her throat, her breath shallow, her entire body aware of how close he was. Dante, she whispered. Yes, I'm scared. Love me. Of this, whatever this is, I don't trust my judgment anymore. What if I'm just trading one bad situation for another? What if I can't tell the difference between protection and possession? He pulled back slightly, giving her space, his expression serious. You want to know the difference? Ask me to stop, right now. Tell me to back off, to leave you alone, to treat you like any other employee. If you do, I will. No argument, no consequences, no anger. Because your choice matters more than my feelings. Iris stared at him, her heart hammering. Derek would never have said that, would never have given her the power to set boundaries without punishment. I don't want you to stop. She heard herself say. Are you sure? No, but I'm tired of only doing things I'm sure about. Maybe it's time to try something that scares me for good reasons instead of bad ones. Dante's smile was slow, genuine, and absolutely devastating. Good reasons. You're dangerous, probably bad for me in 17 different ways. You run a criminal empire from a bar and solve problems with methods I definitely shouldn't ask about. She leaned in slightly. But you've never once made me feel small, never made me apologize for existing, never punished me for having opinions or boundaries or needs. So yeah, good reasons. That's a pretty low bar for good. Maybe, but it's mine. He leaned in slowly, giving her every opportunity to change her mind, to pull away, to say stop. His lips brushed her forehead, gentle, chaste, a promise rather than a claim. We're going to take this slow, he murmured against her skin, because you deserve slow. You deserve courtship and patience and someone who earns your trust instead of demanding it. What if I don't want slow? Too bad, you're getting it anyway. He pulled back, his expression stern but his eyes warm. I'm not him, Iris, and I'm going to prove it to you day by day until you believe it in your bones. Tears pricked her eyes, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming relief of being seen. Really, truly seen. Not as broken, not as damaged, but as someone worthy of care. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Okay, prove it. He smiled and pressed Lucia's bracelet into her palm. Keep this. For now, I think she'd want you to have it. Dante, I can't. The butterfly represents transformation, remember, seems appropriate. He stood, offering his hand to help her up. Come on, your shift's not over, and Maya's probably wondering if I kidnapped you. Iris stood, the bracelet warm in her hand, and followed him to the door. but before they left, she stopped him with a hand on his arm. "Thank you for showing me, for trusting me with her story. Thank you for listening and for understanding why I'm a disaster when it comes to you. You're not a disaster. I installed a surveillance system in your apartment after knowing you for a week. I'm absolutely a disaster." She laughed, and the sound felt like freedom. Downstairs, the bar pulsed with energy. Maya caught Iris's eye and raised an eyebrow. "Well." Iris just smiled and fastened Lucia's bracelet around her wrist, the butterfly charm catching the light. She didn't know what she and Dante were building, didn't know if it would last or implode or transform into something she couldn't yet imagine. But for the first time in years, she was willing to find out. And that, she was learning, was its own kind of courage. Has someone ever seen the real you, past the walls and wounds, and chosen to stay anyway? How did it change you? Share your story in the comments. Sometimes being truly seen is the bravest and most healing thing we can experience. Dizzy. The next 2 weeks felt like living in a different world, not because anything dramatic changed, but because everything small did. Dante started appearing at the bar earlier in the evenings, always with some excuse, checking inventory, meeting with suppliers, reviewing security footage. But Iris noticed the way he'd position himself where he could watch her work, the way his eyes would soften when she laughed at one of Maya's jokes, the way he'd tense whenever a customer got too friendly. And she noticed the way her own heart would skip when she'd catch him watching. "You two are exhausting," Maya announced one evening during prep. "All this longing looks and careful distance, just kiss already." "We're taking it slow," Iris said, arranging lime wedges with more focus than necessary. "Slow, honey. Glaciers move faster than you two." "He's being respectful. He's being Italian and dramatic. There's a difference." Maya hip-checked her playfully. "But I'll give him credit. I've worked here 12 years and never seen him like this. Man's got it bad." Iris tried to suppress her smile and failed. "He's just being nice." Dante Caruso doesn't do nice. He does loyalty, protection, and occasional terrifying displays of power. The fact that he's bringing you coffee exactly how you like it every morning means you're something different. It was true. Iris had arrived at work 3 days ago to find a perfect cappuccino waiting at her station, the right temperature, the right amount of foam, from the expensive cafe 6 blocks away. No note, but she knew. The next day, it was a latte with oat milk and honey. He'd remembered an offhand comment she'd made about being lactose intolerant. Yesterday, it was hot chocolate because the forecast called for rain, and she'd mentioned once, weeks ago, that rainy days made her crave chocolate. He was paying attention to everything. "It's terrifying," Iris admitted quietly, "being cared about this much. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop." Maya's expression softened. "Not every man is your ex, sweetie. Some of them actually mean it when they're good to you." "How do you know the difference?" "You watch what they do when they're angry, when things don't go their way, when you say no." She squeezed Iris's shoulder. "Dante's had plenty of opportunities to show his real colors, has he?" Iris thought about the times she declined his offers to drive her home, or disagreed with his assessment of something, or simply needed space. He'd never once punished her for it, never sulked or raged or made her pay for her autonomy. "No," she said softly, "he hasn't." "Then maybe trust that, even if it's scary." That night after closing, Dante appeared at the bar with an unexpected request. "Can you make me something you've never made before?" Iris looked up from wiping down the counter. What? A cocktail, something creative. No restrictions, no customer to please, just make me something that feels like you. It was such an odd request that Iris almost laughed, but the way he was looking at her, open, curious, genuinely interested, made her heart squeeze. Okay, she said, but you have to sit right there and not micromanage. I don't micromanage. You literally reorganized my entire Mafia and place last Tuesday. I was optimizing your workflow. Sit down. He sat, fighting a smile, and watched as she moved behind the bar with purpose. Iris had always loved this part of bartending, the creativity, the way flavors could tell a story. She reached for ingredients instinctively, vodka for clarity, elderflower for hope, fresh lemon for brightness, a dash of lavender for calm, topped with Prosecco for celebration. She built it carefully, tasting as she went, adjusting until it felt right. When she finally slid the coupe glass across to Dante, the cocktail shimmered pale purple in the low light. What's it called? He asked. After, she said simply. It's what after is supposed to taste like, after fear, after hiding, after believing you don't deserve good things. Dante lifted the glass, his eyes never leaving hers, and took a slow sip. His expression shifted, surprise, then something deeper. It's perfect, he said quietly, like drinking possibility. Sentimental for a mob boss. Honest for a bartender. They smiled at each other across the bar, and the moment stretched into something fragile and real. Come here, Dante said. Iris came around the bar and let him pull her onto the stool beside him, close enough that their knees touched, close enough to feel the heat of him. I want to show you something, he said, pulling out his phone, but you have to promise not to laugh. Now I'm definitely going to laugh. He pulled up a playlist, carefully curated, she could tell, because Dante did everything with intention. I've been making this for you, songs that remind me of you. Iris's breath caught. It was possibly the most vulnerable thing anyone had ever given her, more intimate than jewelry or flowers, because it required him to reveal how much he thought about her. Can I listen? That's why I'm showing you. She took the phone, scrolling through the titles. Some she recognized, Sinatra, Billie Holiday, contemporary artists she'd mentioned liking. Others were in Italian, probably from his childhood, each one chosen with care. Dante, she whispered, this is too much. I can delete it if. No, she looked up at him, eyes bright. It's perfect, but now you have to let me make you one. A deal. They sat there for the next hour, trading songs and stories, laughing over shared favorites and debating the merits of different artists. Iris learned that Dante secretly loved old jazz, that he played piano but never told anyone, that his mother used to sing Italian lullabies that still made him tear up. And Dante learned that Iris had wanted to be a musician once, that she'd given up guitar because Derek said it was a waste of time, that she still hummed when she was nervous, a habit she'd tried to break but never could. Start again, Dante said suddenly. What? The guitar, start playing again. I don't even have one anymore. Derek threw it away during one of his moods. Dante's expression went cold. He did what? It doesn't matter now, it's in the past. It matters because it was yours, because he had no right. He pulled out his phone again. What kind? Dante, you are not buying me a guitar. What kind? She sighed, recognizing the futility of arguing. Acoustic, A Martin if we're being fancy, but honestly anything decent would. He was already typing. Done. It'll be delivered to your apartment tomorrow. You're impossible. I'm thorough, there's a difference. He set his phone down and turned to face her fully. I want you to have back everything he took from you, your music, your confidence, your joy, all of it. You can't just buy my healing. No, but I can make sure you have the tools for it. He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear with heartbreaking gentleness. Let me help, please. There was that word again, please, a word Derek had never used except sarcastically. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Okay, buy me the guitar, make me playlists, keep bringing me coffee even though I've never asked for it. She took his hand, lacing their fingers together. Just keep being you, that's all I need. Dante lifted their joined hands and pressed a kiss to her knuckles. I can do that. They stayed like that, hands linked, sharing the comfortable silence of two people learning to trust the space between them. Outside, the city hummed with late-night energy, but in Obscura, in the quiet after closing, time felt suspended. Tell me something, Iris said softly, something you've never told anyone. Dante considered for a long moment. I'm scared of failing you. That's not fair. Now I have to be vulnerable back. That's the point. She took a breath. I'm scared of trusting this, of trusting you, not because of you, because of me. What if I can't tell the difference anymore between love and control? What if I'm so broken I mistake one for the other? You're not broken, Dante said firmly. You're healing. There's a difference. How do you know? Because broken people don't ask questions like that. They don't worry about making mistakes. They just survive. He squeezed her hand. You're not just surviving anymore, Iris. You're living, and that's terrifying, but it's also beautiful. Tears pricked her eyes. When did you get so wise? I'm not wise, I'm just paying attention. He stood, pulling her up with him. Come on, I'll drive you home. You don't have to do that every night. I know I want to. They drove through empty streets with soft music playing, one of the songs from his playlist, an Italian ballad that sounded like longing set to melody. Dante sang along quietly, unself-consciously, and Iris felt something crack open in her chest. This was what she'd been missing, not grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but the small intimacies, the quiet care, the choice to show up day after day without expecting anything in return. When they reached her building, Dante walked her to her door like always, but this time, when she turned to say goodbye, she didn't step back. Thank you, she said, for tonight, for the playlist, for the guitar I haven't received yet but I'm sure is ridiculously expensive. The Martin Dye 28, it's supposed to be the best. Of course it is, she laughed softly. You don't do anything halfway, do you? Not when it matters. His hand came up to cup her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone. And you matter, Iris, more than I probably should admit. Then don't admit it, show me instead. He lined ends, slowly giving her every opportunity to change her mind, but she didn't. She let him close the distance until his lips brushed hers, soft, questioning, devastatingly gentle. The kiss was nothing like she'd expected. No demand, no possession, just sweetness, the kind of kiss that felt like a promise rather than a claim. When he pulled back, his eyes were dark with want, but also something else. Patience, control, the willingness to wait until she was ready for more. Good night, Iris, he murmured. Good night, Dante. She watched him leave, then went inside and pressed her back against the door, her fingers touching her lips, the butterfly bracelet cool against her wrist. Somewhere in the city, Derek was probably still trying to control her from a distance. But here, in this moment, she was free. And for the first time in years, she was beginning to believe she deserved to be. The guitar arrived the next morning, a beautiful Martin D28 in a hardshell case. That probably cost more than her rent. Iris ran her fingers over the strings, muscle memory flooding back, and for a moment she felt whole. She texted Dante a photo with a simple message, "Thank you. You have no idea what this means." His response came immediately, "Then play for me sometime. I want to hear you." She was still smiling when her phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello. Ms. Chen, this is Detective Rodriguez with the NYPD. I need to ask you some questions about your employer, Dante Caruso." Her blood ran cold. What kind of questions? "The kind best discussed in person. Can you come to the precinct today?" "Am I in trouble?" "That depends on what you tell me." She didn't go to the police station. Instead, she went straight to Obscura, arriving hours before her shift, her hands shaking as she climbed the stairs to Dante's office. He looked up when she burst in, concern immediate. "What's wrong?" "The police called. They want to question me about you." The words tumbled out in a rush. "A detective, Rodriguez. He said it depends on what I tell them whether I'm in trouble." Dante's expression went carefully blank, the mask he wore when processing threats. "What did you say?" "Nothing. I came here first." She paced in front of his desk. "Dante, what's happening? What do they think you've done?" "It doesn't matter what they think. It matters to me. I work here. She stopped herself. "I'm falling for you. I'm involved now, whether I want to be or not." "You're not involved in anything illegal." "But you are." It wasn't a question. The silence stretched between them like a chasm. "I've never lied to you about what I am," Dante said quietly. "Never pretended this was just a bar. You knew from the beginning there was more to it." "Knowing and having the police call me are two different things." Her voice rose, panic bleeding through. "Derek used to get me involved in his schemes. Little things at first, lying for him, covering for him, making excuses, and then bigger things, until I was so complicit I couldn't leave without destroying myself too. I would never do that to you." "But you already have," she gestured wildly. "You made me part of your world. You gave me security systems and guitars and playlists. You made me care about you. And now the police are circling and I'm going to have to choose between you and—" She stopped, the reality crashing over her, between him and her freedom, between love and safety, between trusting again and protecting herself. "I can't do this," she whispered. "I can't be the person who covers for someone again. I can't lie to police. I can't." "Then don't." Dante stood, his voice hard in a way she'd never heard directed at her. "If they question you, tell them the truth. You work at a bar. You serve drinks. Anything else is speculation." "That's not good enough. Don't you understand? I left one toxic situation. I can't walk into another one no matter how different it feels." Tears streamed down her face. "I thought you were different. I thought—" "You thought what? That I was safe?" His laugh was bitter. "I told you what I was from the start. I never pretended to be something I'm not." "No, you just made me fall for you anyway." The words hung in the air between them, raw and true and terrible. Dante's expression cracked. "Iris." "No," she backed toward the door. "I can't. I'm sorry, but I can't do this. I won't survive it." "Don't do this. Don't run because you're scared." "I'm not running. I'm surviving. There's a difference." She reached the door, her hand on the knob. I quit, effective immediately. Find someone else to tend your bar and lie to the police and pretend they don't know what you really are. That's not fair. Life isn't fair. If it was, good men wouldn't turn out to be criminals, and I wouldn't keep falling for people who destroy me. She wrenched the door open. Goodbye, Dante. Iris, wait. But she was already running down the stairs, her vision blurred with tears, her heart shattering with every step. She'd finally started believing in something good. And it turned out to be a beautiful lie. Vincent caught her at the bottom of the stairs. Where are you going? Anywhere that's not here. The boss. The boss can handle his own problems. I'm done being collateral damage. She pushed past him and out into the cold afternoon air. Behind her, she could hear Dante shouting her name from the office window. She didn't look back. She couldn't. Because if she did, she'd see the pain in his eyes and convince herself to stay. And staying would destroy her just like Derek had. Only this time it would hurt so much worse. Because this time she'd actually been in love. Maya found her 2 hours later, sitting in a coffee shop 6 blocks away, staring at an untouched latte. You want to tell me what happened? Maya slid into the booth. Across from her. The police are investigating him. They want to question me. And you ran. I survived. Iris's voice broke. There's a difference. Maya sighed, her expression a mix of sympathy and frustration. Listen, I get it. You're scared. You should be dating a man like Dante comes with complications. But running the second things get hard. That's not surviving, honey. That's just different trauma. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You think you're protecting yourself, but all you're doing is proving Derek right, that you'll never trust anyone, never believe you deserve good things, never stop seeing danger in every shadow. Maya reached across the table. Dante's not perfect. His world is complicated and sometimes dangerous, but he's also the first person in years who made you feel safe enough to try again. Don't throw that away because you're scared. The police, Maya. We'll find nothing because you've done nothing wrong. You served drinks, that's it. She squeezed Iris's hand. But if you walk away now, you'll spend the rest of your life wondering what if, and you'll never forgive yourself. Iris pulled her hand back, standing abruptly. I need time to think, to figure out what I want. Take your time, but don't take forever. Some things, once broken, can't be fixed. Iris left without another word, Maya's warning echoing in her ears. She went home to her fortress apartment with its expensive locks and security cameras, picked up the beautiful guitar she'd had for less than a day, and didn't play a single note. Because every string reminded her of him. And she couldn't decide if that was a reason to stay or run faster. 3 days of silence felt like 3 years. Iris didn't go back to Obscura, didn't answer Maya's texts, didn't look at the playlist Dante had made her, even though she wanted to so badly it physically hurt. She did go to the police station. Detective Rodriguez was exactly what she expected: middle-aged, tired eyes, the kind of cop who'd seen too much. He asked her about Dante, about the bar, about the clientele. She told him the truth. She served drinks. She didn't know anything about Dante's business dealings. She was just an employee. Just an employee he installed a security system for. Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. I had an ex-boyfriend problem. He helped. Dante Caruso doesn't help people out of the goodness of his heart. Then maybe you don't know him as well as you think you do. Rodriguez studied her for a long moment, You're protecting him. I'm telling you the truth. There's a difference. He let her go after an hour of circular questions that went nowhere. As she left, he called after her. Ms. Chen, be careful. Men like Caruso don't let people walk away. One way or another, you're in his world now. She went home and stared at the guitar for another day. It was Maya who finally broke through, showing up at her apartment unannounced with takeout and determination. You look terrible, Maya announced, pushing past her into the apartment. Well, thanks. I'm serious. When's the last time you ate, showered, did anything other than stare at that guitar like it personally offended you? I'm fine. You're a liar. Maya set the food on the counter. And you're breaking his heart, by the way. Dante's been a nightmare for 3 days, snapping at everyone, locked in his office, looking like someone died. Iris's chest constricted. He'll be fine. He doesn't need me. That's where you're wrong. He needs you more than he's needed anyone since Lucia died. Maya grabbed her shoulders. Listen to me. I know you're scared. I know your ex destroyed your ability to trust. But Dante is not Derek. And running away from fear doesn't make you brave. It just makes you alone. What if I make the wrong choice again? What if you don't? What if this is the right choice and you're throwing it away because you're too scared to find out? Maya's eyes softened. You told me once that Derek made you feel small. Has Dante ever, even once, made you feel anything but seen? Iris thought about the coffee every morning, the playlist, the guitar, the way he'd kissed her like she was precious, the way he'd given her the power to say no and meant it. No, she whispered, he hasn't. Then stop punishing him for Derek's crimes. Maya headed for the door, then turned back. He's at the bar, alone. If you're going to break his heart, at least do it to his face. He deserves that much. Iris stood outside Obscura for 10 minutes before she found the courage to go in. The bar was closed, unusual for a Saturday night. She used the key she'd forgotten to return and climbed the stairs to Dante's office on trembling legs. He sat at his desk, a glass of whiskey untouched in front of him, staring at nothing. He looked up when she entered, and the hope that flashed across his face nearly destroyed her. Iris. I talked to the police, she said without preamble. I told them I knew nothing, because I don't. I serve drinks. That's all I know, and that's all I told them. You didn't have to come here to tell me that. No, I came to tell you I'm sorry. She stepped closer. I ran, just like you said, because I was scared and I panicked and I let Derek's ghost make my decisions for me. Dante stood slowly. You had every right to be scared. But I didn't have the right to treat you like you were him, to assume the worst without even talking to you first. She twisted her hands together. You've spent weeks proving you're different, proving you respect my boundaries and my choices. And the first time things got complicated, I threw it all back in your face. You were protecting yourself. I was running away from the best thing that's happened to me in years. Her voice cracked. Because that's what I do. I run, I hide, I make myself small. And I'm so tired of it, Dante. I'm so tired of letting fear make my decisions. He crossed to her slowly, like she might bolt again. What are you saying? I'm saying I want to try, even though I'm terrified, even though your world is complicated and dangerous, even though I don't know if I'm strong enough for this. She looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. I'm saying I'm in love with you, and I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. Dante's hands came up to frame her face, his thumbs brushing away her tears. You're sure, because once you choose this, choose me, I'm not letting you go easily. Not because I'll trap you, but because I'll spend every day proving you made the right choice. I'm not sure of anything except that I can't breathe without you. Is that enough? It's everything. He kissed her then, deep and claiming and full of 3 days' worth of longing and relief. When he pulled back, his eyes were bright. I love you. I've loved you since you waited 2 hours in my lobby, too stubborn to leave. And I'll love you through every moment of fear and doubt until you believe you deserve it. I'm a mess, she whispered against his lips. So am I. We'll figure it out together. The police. We'll find nothing because there's nothing to find that involves you. You're not part of that side of my life. You never will be. He rested his forehead against hers. You're the part of my life that's good, that's light. That reminds me I'm more than just the darkness I've had to become. I want to come back, to work, to be here. Are you sure? No, but I'm choosing it anyway. She smiled through her tears. Someone wise recently told me that being scared doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're trying something that matters. Someone wise sounds incredibly handsome. He's all right. She kissed him again, softer this time. Take me home. Your place or mine? Yours. I want to see where you live when you're not being the boss. Dante's smile was pure joy. Fair warning, it's probably not as exciting as you think. I don't need exciting, I just need you. They left Obscura hand in hand, the city lights reflecting off wet pavement from an earlier rain. Somewhere behind them, Maya watched from the window and smiled. And somewhere across the city, Detective Rodriguez filed his report with a note. Subject's girlfriend knows nothing. Dead end. But Iris and Dante didn't know that yet. All they knew was that choosing fear together was somehow less frightening than facing safety alone. And sometimes that was enough. 6 months later, Obscura hummed with its usual Friday night energy, but tonight felt different, special. Iris stood behind the bar in a black dress that Maya had insisted she buy, her hair swept up, Lucia's butterfly bracelet glinting on her wrist. The Martin guitar sat in a corner of the bar on a stand, a permanent fixture now. Some nights after closing, she'd play while Dante listened. You ready for this? Maya asked, adjusting the small stage they'd set up near the window. Absolutely not. Iris's hands trembled as she wiped down a glass. Too bad, you're doing it anyways. Tonight was the grand reopening of Obscura, reimagined, legitimate, clean. Dante had spent 6 months restructuring everything, severing ties with operations that crossed lines, transforming the bar from a front into an actual business. It hadn't been easy. Some partnerships had ended badly, but he'd done it. For her, for them, for the future they were building. The police investigation had gone nowhere, just as Dante promised. Derek had finally stopped trying to contact her after Dante's conversation with him, the details of which Iris had decided she didn't need to know. Some things were better left in the dark. 5 minutes, Dante appeared beside her, devastating in a black suit, his hand finding the small of her back like it always did, like she was magnetic north and he couldn't help but orient himself toward her. I'm going to forget the words. You won't. You've practiced every night for 2 weeks. I'm going to embarrass myself. Impossible, you're perfect. He turned her to face him. And even if you do forget the words, I'll be right here, always. She kissed him softly. How did I get so lucky? You took a risk on a bar that definitely seemed suspicious, and a man who probably scared you. You definitely scared me. Past tense. Present tense, you terrify me. You make me feel things I thought I'd never feel again. You make me want things I thought I didn't deserve. She smiled. But now I know that being terrified and being alive are sometimes the same thing. Dante's expression softened in the way it only did with her, when the armor came down and she could see the man underneath. I love you. I know you tell me every morning when you bring me coffees. I tell you because it's true every single day. Maya cleared her throat. Loudly, if you two are done being disgustingly adorable, we have a bar to reopen and a song to perform. The crowd quieted as Iris took her seat on the small stage, guitar in her lap. Her hands shook as she positioned her fingers on the frets. She could see Dante at the bar, his eyes never leaving her, Maya giving her a thumbs up, Vincent in the corner, looking almost proud. She'd written this song over the past month, about endings and beginnings, about fear and freedom, about finding home in the most unexpected places. The first notes trembled out, then steadied, and then she sang. I was running from ghosts in the daylight, building walls just to feel like I'm safe. Every door was an exit, every kindness a weapon. Until you showed me that trust wasn't faith. You didn't save me, you saw me. Didn't fix me, just stayed. Gave me space for my broken, and time for my braves. Now I'm standing in the after, where the ending meets the start. Found my way, through all the shattered, to the unguarded hearts. Her voice grew stronger with each verse, the fear melting into something else, power, joy, truth. When the final note faded, the bar erupted in applause, but Iris only saw Dante crossing the room to her, pulling her into his arms like she was the most precious thing in the world. That was for you, she whispered against his chest. I know it was perfect, you're perfect. I'm really not. You are to me, and that's what matters. Later, after the guests had gone and the bar was empty except for the two of them, Dante led Iris back upstairs to his office. But this time, it felt different, lighter. I have something for you, he said, pulling a small box from his desk drawer. Iris's heart stuttered. Dante. It's not what you think, not yet. He opened the box to reveal a key. To my apartment. I want you to move in. No pressure, no rush, but I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to build something real with you. Your apartment is terrifying. All that minimalist furniture and not a single personal photo. Then make it less terrifying. Make it ours. He took her hand. I know it's fast. I know we're still figuring things out. But I also know that every day with you feels right in a way nothing else ever has. Iris took the key, her fingers closing around it. 6 months ago, she'd been running. Now she was choosing to stay, to build, to trust. Okay, she said. Okay. Okay, but I'm bringing the guitar. And plants, so many plants. Your apartment needs life. Dante's laugh was pure joy. Anything you want. And you're teaching me Italian. Done. Then we're getting a cat. Absolutely not. We're negotiating the cat. You're impossible. You love me anyways. I really do. He pulled her close, his lips finding hers in a kiss that tasted like promises and new beginnings, more than I thought I could love anything. 3. MONTHS later. Iris unlocked the apartment she now shared with Dante, arms full of groceries, and smiled at the chaos inside. Plants on every surface, her guitar leaning against his bookshelf, photos of them scattered throughout, at the bar, at dinner, her teaching him to make elaborate cocktails while he laughed. And on the couch, despite his protests, a small black cat named Not that Dante pretended to merely tolerate, but she'd caught him baby talking to more than once. I'm home, she called. Dante appeared from the bedroom, barefoot in jeans and a t-shirt, so different from the controlled boss in expensive suits. This was her version of him, soft, real, hers. "How was the meeting with the wedding planner?" he asked, taking the groceries from her. Right, because that was the other thing. 3 weeks ago, he'd proposed properly, not with fanfare, but with a quiet question on a Sunday morning while they drank coffee in bed. "Will you marry me and make me the luckiest man alive?" She'd said yes before he'd finished asking. "Good, Maya's going to be my maid of honor." Vincent pretended to be annoyed about being your best man, but I think he's secretly thrilled. Vincent doesn't do thrilled. He smiled, I saw it. It was terrifying, but definitely a smile. Dante laughed, pulling her into his arms. "I love you." "I know, you tell me every day." "Because it's true every day." They swayed together in their plant-filled, photo-covered, cat-inhabited apartment, and Iris marveled at how far she'd come. From a woman who apologized for existing to someone who chose joy even when it scared her. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For being patient, for being different, for proving that not every risk ends badly. Thank you for taking the risk, for walking into a suspicious bar and refusing to leave." He kissed her forehead. "For choosing me even when it terrified you." "Best decision I ever made." "Second best." "What's the first?" Leaving." "Derek, everything good in your life started there." He was right. Leaving had been the first brave thing. Everything else, the job, the love, the healing, had been a result of that one terrifying choice. "I need to hire a new bartender," Dante said casually. "Someone reached out today, single mother running from her ex." She sounded scared, desperate. Iris pulled back to look at him. "You're going to help her." "We're going to help her together." His eyes were steady, certain, "because we protect our own. Isn't that what you always say?" She remembered the night she'd interviewed someone new, the way it had felt full circle. The way Dante had watched from the doorway as she'd said those exact words. "Anyone bothers you, you tell me first." They'd built something here, not just a bar, not just a relationship, but a refuge, for people who needed a second chance, a safe place to land. "Yeah," Iris said softly, her hand finding his. "We protect our own." Outside, the city hummed with its endless energy. Somewhere, someone was making the hardest decision of their life. Somewhere, someone was choosing to run toward something instead of just running away. And here, in an apartment filled with plants and photos and one very spoiled cat, two people who'd found each other in the aftermath of trauma proved that love, the real kind, the healthy kind, was worth every moment of fear it took to find it. Iris looked at her ring, simple, elegant, chosen together, and then at the man who'd given it to her. "What are you thinking?" Dante asked. "That I dumped my toxic ex and took a job at a bar, not knowing it belonged to a mafia boss who would become the love of my life." She smiled. "And I'd do it all over again, every terrifying second." He kissed her then, deep and sure, and in that kiss was everything they'd survived to find each other. Some stories ended in darkness. This one ended in light. What's the bravest choice you've ever made for love? For yourself or for someone else? Sometimes the scariest decisions lead to the most beautiful transformations. Drop your story below. Who knows, your courage might inspire someone else to take that leap.